Hello, welcome to the Lone Show. I'm your host, John Lone, and this episode no regulars because reasons, as always. As for our guest, she's from somewhere in the United Kingdom, currently on Zoom. Well, not really, but okay. She is an actress and the founder of Dauntless PR. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Lana Ribiera.
Hello, it's so fantastic to be here.
Yes, me too.
Hmm.
So, how's life?
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, there's just so much going on. So it's a bit crazy, and that's just how I like it. So it's all good.
Nice, nice. Is there anything you're currently working on or up to recently?
Well, I run a PR agency called Dauntless PR, and we are always like growing and expanding and looking for new ways to do things. And I'm also I have a film that's coming out. I have a TV channel that's being launched, and that's being launched next week. And this is so exciting because it's something that I've always wanted to do. And finally, we're there. It's been a long road. We've got 3 shows that are going to be on initially, and then there's another show coming next month. So that's the most exciting thing that's going on at the minute.
Wow, very good. So, what inspired you to take the path that you're on right now?
You know, when I was growing up, I was very anxious, very shy. I struggled even to speak, and I often felt invisible. And for some reason, and I don't know what it is that instilled this in me, but I always had what I call now the dauntless spirit, which is why I named my agency Dauntless. Because what I mean by dauntless spirit is living fearlessly, but that doesn't mean not having fear. It means running towards the things that make you scared. And, rather than running away from them and hiding from them, running towards them as fast as you can. And so that's what I've done pretty much all my life. So everything that absolutely terrified me, that's what I've run towards. And visibility was the biggest one. So I went into dancing first because that didn't require me to speak. Then from there, I went into acting. Acting, people thought I was playing a character. So, that was okay. It was a lot scarier to stand up and be myself as a personal brand and to show the world who I really was. So that was the next thing that I did. And then from there, I've gone as myself to be presenting these TV shows. So I guess I'm always looking for ways to push myself and to expand. And this is where I ended up. And of course, because I've had that journey, I don't want anybody else to feel invisible, like they don't have a voice. And so that's what's given me the drive to set up my agency, to give people platforms to be seen, to be heard, and to get their amazing, well, their impactful messages out there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Have you ever met anyone famous?
Yeah. I've met quite a few famous people on film sets. Um, I wouldn't say like blockbuster famous, I haven't met any A-listers or anything like that. But I have met, a lot of soap stars from the UK and that kind of thing, and I've worked alongside a lot of them as well.
Hmm. All right then. If you were given 500 acres of land, what would you use that land for?
Oh my God, I love to have 5 acres of land. I would so make the most of it. So I would build a massive retreat space. I guess it's just a big, right, I'm doing this already in Portugal, but I don't have 500 acres of land. I've got about an acre. Um, so I'd make a bigger version of what I'm already doing in Portugal, and that is building a retreat space that is like an escape, like somewhere tranquil that people can go to really tune back in with themselves and to be in the middle of nature. Like everything is everything would be self-sufficient. Everything would be solar powered, completely off the grid, and we would grow all our own foods and stuff like that as well. So everything would be within that. And of course, we'd have some luxury in there, some swimming pools and hot tubs and that kind of thing to make it really nice.
Yes, that's the dream.
Oh, yes.
Where do you see yourself 20 years from now?
Oh, that's such a hard one to answer because when I look back 20 years ago, I never would have imagined that I would be right here, right now, doing the things that I'm doing. But that's where my path led me. And 20 years ago, I dreamed of being a dancer on a cruise ship. That never happened. Instead, I go on lots of holidays instead. So in 20 years from now, life could take me in any direction. Now, what I really want is I would love for more of my films to be out there. I have a couple of films on Amazon Prime. I would love a film on Netflix. So I'm putting that out there. I would love a film or a special or something on Netflix. That's what I'm aiming for. And I'd love for Dauntless PR to, still be doing what it's doing. We'd be working with more people. We will have expanded by then. We do have plans to expand, to open up. We already work globally, because we're online, but we are planning to open a branch in Nevada. So by then, I imagine we would have expanded, and I'm sure I'll have a lot more books out as well by then.
Kartoffel. Would you teleport yourself 500 years into the future or 500 years into the past?
Into the past. I'm fascinated by how people used to live and how they used to think and what life used to be like. I hated history at school. I found it really boring. But then when I left, like when I was working as an actor in York Dungeons, have you heard of York Dungeons?
I don't think I have.
There's one in London, there's one in Amsterdam, there's a few different ones, but they're so much fun. Like There it's like an interactive experience where you walk through and then there's different actors basically displaying what the horrible history was like, back in different times. And I worked in York Dungeons as an actor, and it was a really, really challenging job because we had like 8 stations and we had to learn every single one of them, and it was full on, all day. It was just absolutely full on, but so much fun. And when I worked there, I really got fascinated with, well, just how people used to live and what used to happen and how they used to do things and what they used to believe. So I would love to go back and just experience a day in those times.
Yes, of course. If your mind was an island, what would it look like?
An island. Well, I love the sunshine, so it would definitely be a sunny island, as opposed to the island I live on, which is Anglesey in the UK. Anyone from the UK will know what I'm on about there. Um, so it would be a really sunny tropical island, lots of palm trees, um, lots of boats, and just really bright and tranquil.
Ah, yes. That's something. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Australia. Somewhere like Brisbane or the Gold Coast specifically. And I should have said this when you asked me about 20 years. I think in 20 years I will be in Australia. And the reason why I haven't already is because I'm choosing to be here because of, family commitments and that kind of thing. But at the minute, I live between the UK and Portugal. Um, but Australia, as soon as I visited, I thought, I just love it. I felt like, do you ever visit somewhere and you just feel like, oh, this is home? Or that's how
Yeah,
I felt as soon as I landed in Brisbane. And I love the people that I just love everything about it. And while I was there as well, I visited Fiji. I've never been anywhere like Fiji. It absolutely blew my mind. It's like nothing else. And but I wouldn't want to live in Fiji. Like I'd want to live in Australia and visit Fiji, which it's not far from Brisbane. I think it was a 3-hour flight or something like that. So that would be my ideal. And yeah, I'm sure that's where I'll be one day.
great. What's your favorite ice cream topping?
Hmm. Ice cream topping. Probably sauce. He likes that. Oh, that really nice strawberry sauce. That's really terrible for us. Probably that.
Yeah, I can see that. Where was the furthest you traveled to from where you were originally from?
Well, it was as a child, and I think it was Italy, if I remember correctly. But my first adventure when, as an adult on my own was when I randomly got called at 4 a.m. I wasn't well either. And I randomly got called by one of my best friends in who I do a lot of work with in the film industry. And I hadn't known him long at that point, and he called me at 4 a.m. and he was in Vegas, and he just said, "Listen, I need you to come to Vegas." Because we had some important meetings there, and he'd booked me a spot on a talk show. And I just went, "Oh my God, are you serious?" He just said, "Look, get on the next flight. Come on." And I said, "Okay." And I spoke to my husband at the time, we're separated now, and he just said, "Look, just go." So off I did. I got the next flight to Vegas, and at the time, it was such an epic adventure because I'd never done it before, didn't know what to expect, and of course, it was just when my acting career was starting to take off as well. So that was another thing, it was all new, it was all exciting, and yeah, that was my first experience in Vegas, and I absolutely loved it.
Sweet. How much time do you spend on the internet?
I'm always online. I'm always online. Look, I know that it's not healthy to be online constantly, and I know that we need to take time out and all of that. But I'm doing so much that requires me to be online. That's my excuse. But also, I really enjoy it. We live in a fantastic age where we can communicate with people from all over the world. We can build connections, we can get to know people. And I'm very interested in people. That's another reason why I've gone into PR. So yeah, I'm I'm online probably far more than I should be.
Okay. Cool, cool, I guess. What was the largest thing you have ever seen?
The largest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, that's a question and a half. The largest thing I've ever seen, probably some huge buildings. I'm trying to think what they're called, and they escape me. But when I've been to places like New York, some like really huge buildings and stuff. That's the biggest thing that comes to mind right now.
Bangkok. What was the longest trip you have took?
I think it was Australia, that I was talking about earlier. I was going through a really hard time. My marriage was evolving into friendship. We were evolving. Our relationship was moving into friendship, and so that was a really confusing time. I had a new partner. We were all living together, by the way, in Portugal, which was fine. But I needed some time and space to myself. And my business coach at the time, Ellie Bursko, um, she could see that I was struggling and that I was confused. And I just came out with, I feel like I just need to escape for a bit. And she said, come and stay with me. And it was just such a generous offer. And I did. And I went over there and I stayed with her for 5 weeks. And it was fantastic and it was transformational and it was a really, really great experience and exactly what I needed at the time.
Yeah, of course. Who was the funniest person you've met?
The funniest person I've met. Right. I'm gonna say Alan Carr, the comedian Alan Carr. I used to work in the Comedy Store in Leeds. Now, Alan Carr is somebody who's really inspired me, and I've recently I've recently got myself booked on for my first ever live stand-up gig, which is going to be on my birthday on July the 26th, and it's in the Shaftesbury Fringe. And this is another thing, with the dauntless spirits. Like, this is something that absolutely terrifies me. So I'm running towards it. Anyway, I'm going off track a little bit. I'll go back to your question. But Alan Carr, because he's also a real, real inspiration. When I worked in the Comedy Store, he was one of the acts there. He would come out on a Thursday night. It was student night. He wasn't the headlining act. And he was absolutely hilarious. And then I left the Comedy Store, and then a few years later, I mean, he's all over the place, and he is so lovely, and he's absolutely hilarious. And I'll tell you this, he's the same on stage as he is off stage. He's such a great personality and just a laugh a minute.
Nice, nice. What is the best way to stay motivated?
So motivation is something that we create from within. I think a mistake that a lot of people make is when they want to do something and they'll say, I don't feel motivated. But it's up to them to create that motivation. And I understand that in myself. So what I do when I'm not feeling motivated is really, really simple. I start in any way. I will just start. And then usually that's when I get motivated. The action is what creates that motivation rather than sitting still. Motivation isn't just suddenly going to come and whack us in the face. So I'm a big believer in creating that motivation ourselves and just getting started. And then if it still doesn't come, there are what I like to do personally is put some, depending on what I'm doing, putting some specific kind of music or something like that on, or sometimes to focus on what it is that I need to do, but then remove myself completely from that thing and going for a walk or moving away from it completely. As long as I've focused on it beforehand, that's then going to be in my mind. And what happens is when I separate myself from it, a lot of ideas come in. And then I get excited, and then I get motivated, and then I get on with it.
Fair enough. What is your favorite season?
Summer. I love the sunshine. I would be very happy living somewhere tropical, where it's always sunny. I just love it. Yeah, I love the summer. It brightens me up, improves my mood. I would choose summer every single time. Though I do love Christmas as well.
Yes, me too. Have you ever thought about living off the grid?
Yeah. And that's what we're building in Portugal. So I have some land in Portugal. It's actually, I used to live there years ago, just on the land. There was absolutely nothing there at the time. I literally lived in a ditch that was covered by a polytunnel. Like that's where I lived. And it was all, well, we had nothing initially. And then gradually over the months, we started getting solar power, fixing the well, that kind of thing. And but at the time, we bathed and we drank in the river. Like it was completely wild, and we built a retreat space there. And then in 2020, the forest fires got everything, and absolutely just completely destroyed it. It's 22 actually, I think. But anyway, we're just in the process now of rebuilding it, because obviously when it first happened, we were just like, oh my god, like we were hesitant to rebuild it in case the fires got it again. But I think we've cracked it now, how to keep it safe and everything like that. So that's what we've been doing over the past 2 years. And now we're in the process of rebuilding it. There's a yurt, there's some places to stay. There's still no power or anything like that yet. Um, but yeah, we're in the process of building it back up, and it will be fully off the grid.
Wow. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Welcome. Would you rather be able to breathe underwater or have an agility of a cat?
I think the agility of a cat, they're fascinating creatures. I love cats. They are just, they're amazing. What their bodies can do is absolutely incredible. Like I've got one cat who loves to climb trees and jump from tree to tree, and it's just magnificent. I'd love to be able to do that.
Mm, yes.
Do
What is the best way to start the morning?
you know what? This is something that a lot of people disagree with me on. I find the best thing for me to, well, I think I'll say this first of all. I think everybody should do what works for them. There's no one right or wrong in the morning, but what I do personally is I wake up, I get to work, because that is my most creative time. And a lot of people are like, oh, you should be doing a morning routine. And if that works for them, great. I've tried it, doesn't work for me. And I'll tell you why. Because if I do a morning routine and I put my energy into that, that's my most creative time. And my job needs so much creativity that I find that that time is lost. So when I get up, I like to get straight to work and get straight on with it. And then the things that people usually do in a morning routine or whatever, I'll tend to do those around lunchtime.
Mm, fabulous. And delicious too.
What was that? Sorry.
It's fabulous and delicious, I'd say.
Nice.
Yeah. What would be the first thing you'd do if you found out you won the lottery?
Um, if I won the lottery, okay, that's not going to happen because I don't try the lottery. But if I did, by some miracle, I would invest it back. I mean, I'd invest it into the projects that I'm already doing. So I'd I'd produce more films, I'd create more shows for the TV channel. I'd put more into our retreat space. Um, it would all go into like developing and increasing what it is that I'm already doing. And also, I like to, I mean, a certain amount of it would also go to helping things like any kind of causes to do with people who just don't have the same opportunities maybe as we have, like there are people who really need help in the world, and so a good amount of it would go towards that as well.
Yeah, good point. What is your favorite holiday tradition?
Holiday tradition. When you say holiday, I think of like just lying by a pool reading a book because that is my absolute favorite thing to do on holiday. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, that's one of them, yeah.
Well, that's my tradition, and that's my, I would be perfectly happy for a full holiday not moving from the side of the pool, reading book after book. So there you go. That's my tradition.
Sounds good, yes. What is the most comfortable piece of clothing you own?
My pajamas. I love my pajamas. You know, when it's cold outside and it's rainy on a Sunday, I love just snuggling up in my pajamas and reading a book or watching Netflix.
Mm. Oh, yes. That's the dream. How many countries have you been to so far?
Oh, that's a question. Do you know, I couldn't give you a number, and I think it would a lot. A lot. I couldn't give you an exact number because I travel a lot. I travel a lot and I've been to so many different places. You know, I've been very fortunate in being able to travel, especially in the past decade or so. I've been to a lot of places, a lot.
That's true, yes. What's the craziest, most outrageous thing you want to achieve?
I'd love to. Right, I've got my first ever. This is probably why it sounds crazy because I haven't even done it before. But I've got my first ever. Like I said, I've got my first stand-up comedy gig in July, and I'd love to go on tour. I'd love to go on tour, and I'd love to be, like I said before, have a show on Netflix or something like that. Um, that would be amazing. Yes.
Ah, of course. If someone wrote a book about you, what do you think its title would be?
From invisible to invincible.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I like
And
it.
yeah, sounds good. And that is all we have for this episode. It's great having you on, Lana, talking about your work as an actress and finding Dauntless PR and that new show you're working on. It's been great.
Thank you so much. It's been really good fun.
Yes. And until next time, stay tuned for more.